So what did I learn during my Rustoleum paint job experience? First, like any paint job, the preparation is key. So the better you prep it, the better the paint job's going to be. Let's just face it. Anything that's bad on the prep work's going to show through no matter what brand or type of paint that you're using. So you got to make sure your prep work is good. It's key to success. Um, Second thing is, as far as the paint itself, I'm reasonably happy with the way it turned out. There are some things you need to know about Rustoleum paint, and I'll get to that here in a minute, as far as how it works and how it reacts and those types of things. But the main thing, second thing, when you paint with Rustoleum paint, temperature is key. Especially, again, it might be a little bit different with a spray gun and using quarts or gallons, but I use spray cans. The temperature absolutely has to be between 50 to 65 degrees. If you get much warmer than that, the paint is going to atomize, too dry, and it's not going to flow out of the cans. Just face it, before it hits the product actually hits the car, it's going to be dry and it's going to be really rough. So I found like the perfect temperature is just over 50 degrees, maybe as high as 65. So get your temperature right first. Second thing is, be very careful at what you have underneath as a substrate. Try to stick with the same brands. Again, I use the 2X, but try to keep the same brands. I did have a couple of small minor imperfections in the paint that were caused by something that was underneath. I tried to strip the whole car. I didn't get every bit of it stripped, but some places reacted and the paint crinkled. So again, it could happen with anything. It could happen with automotive paint, but just be careful with the substrate. Make sure it's sealed really, really well. The second thing is, I use the white 2X primer underneath on pretty much the majority of the car, and it made coverage really good with the white. And again, you might have, again, I wouldn't want to use it under a color, because if it got chipped you could see the white through there. But for lighter colors, I would definitely recommend using white primer just to get more coverage. However, when you're spraying white on top of white, it's very difficult to see the areas that you've painted. So I had to actually look down the side of the panel and see, as I was applying it, the wet areas and make sure I overlapped. I did not have any problems with streaking, and I'm sure a lot of times when you're spraying with spray cans you can see the tiger stripes. I didn't have that, and I'm sure it's directly a result of using the white primer underneath the white paint. So it worked really well. It flowed out really well. Next, some things I learned about the gloss white, and again, any of the 2X products. The first tenth of a can, I had problems with the way it sprayed. I don't know if that is the propellant that's in the can or what. I don't care how hard I shook it or what I did. The first tenth of the can would kind of spit, come out dry. Once I got beyond that, it worked perfect. So I had to basically waste the first tenth of a can to get it to where it would spray. And I did warm up all the cans to try to get it as warm as possible. Another thing I learned, there's a chance that this stuff could go bad on the shelf. I had a few of the cans that were older than the newer cases that I had bought, and I had a problem with some of the cans, the pigmentation yellowing. So I would apply it and I could immediately see that the color was coming out yellow. So I'm just going to assume it was the cans had gone bad on the shelf. It was not that major of a problem. I just went back and top coated with a different can, and I didn't have a problem. Color wise, everything except for those cans that I had the yellowing problem, it all seemed to match really, really well. So I like that. Coverage, like I said, is really good. This is much, much thicker than the typical automotive paint that you will apply. I put 3 coats of this 2X as a base on top of the white primer. Now, one other thing. Next, even though we all know it's a little ridiculous to paint an entire vehicle inside and out with spray cans, but I did have the ability with a Volkswagen to take sections of the car apart and paint the pieces individually, the hood, the deck lid, the fenders. So the largest piece is what you see behind me. I did have to paint that as a unit. Of course, if I really went crazy, I could have taken the doors off and painted those separate, put it all back on. But you know, unlike a conventional car, early Volkswagens, a lot of metal, a lot of exposed metal inside and out. So it's not just spraying the outside like you see on a lot of the Rustoleum paint jobs. There's a lot of surface area. Basically, you might as well figure you're painting the equivalent of 2 exterior Volkswagens to do a full paint job on a Volkswagen, because a conventional car, you'd spray the outside, the inside's all covered with upholstery. So one thing you have to do this, you've got to have a spray nozzle that clips on the top of the can. This is the Rustoleum brand. I know they make different brands. It works really great. It simply squeezes and attaches to the top of the can. Make sure, you know, of course, that it's centered on the nozzle. And this saved my hand, because trying to spray all this, I mean, I can feel it anyway in my old wore out technician fingers, but definitely saved me. Have to have that. The next thing, like I said, on the 2X is I put 3 coats. Again, I believe that's probably about the equivalent of 6 coats of an automotive paint, just because it's so thick. But other than that, dry time fairly quick. I put about 10, if not more, minutes between each coat. And then I sectioned the car out into sections at a time, the front, then the back. Then I came back and did inside, then I came back and did outside, and I finished up with the quarters and the doors. I did not have a whole lot of overspray problems. If you watch my video, I used a Harbor Freight tent with a couple of box fans with the furnace filters on there, and I had some furnace filters at the front filtering the air coming in, and it worked really well. Airflow through there was probably better than what I've had in the past. I did have a few areas where I was painting high up. If you look right here, if you're at the top painting that window frame, I did have a little bit of overspray that occurred on the top of that panel right below the windshield. But overall, the airflow was enough. With the spray cans, they don't produce a whole lot of overspray like using a spray gun would. But pretty much very little overspray, very little orange peel. I probably had a little bit more orange peel doing an entire body versus when I did the individual fenders, hood, deck lid. For whatever reason, maybe it's just because the surface area is so large, I might have been getting in a hurry or whatever. But very little orange peel. It should buff out really nice once I wet sand it. I think that's about all the tips I've got on the Rustoleum. The 2K Clear, nothing negative to say about it. This is very fast. Where I spent, a lot of time applying the Rustoleum to make sure I got coverage, this is real quick. I popped the cans. Again, these cans have hardener in them. You pull the cap out, shove it in the bottom, pop it on a countertop, and shake it, and it mixes, and then it's good. I think I thought it was about 18 hours, but I think looking at the can, it's about 48 hours it's supposed to be good for. I don't know that I would use it, you know, within a few hours of popping it. But I did pop these early and give it time for the hardener to mix really well. Shook it several times in between. But as far as coverage, as far as how it comes out of the can, the nozzle and all that, real quick and easy. I literally walk around the car applying the clear, and amazingly, I had no runs. And now, initially, when I first started out, I started in the trunk so I could kind of get my feel for the application, not just the clear, but the Rustoleum. And I did get a little bit close at the start, had a few runs there, corrected it, and from that point forward, it basically took me all day yesterday to apply the paint inside and out.